And I suppose if you only had a limited budget, that meant that you, at this stage, all you could afford is, a very simple system that's not going to do all of your energy, requirements. How do you protect yourself? I mean, this technology is changing so rapidly. That's what I've personally seen. I did my degree at the University of New South Wales that had the solar research, and I think about what we learnt about solar power over 20 years ago compared to the panels and the efficiency compared to what, and that's only a couple of decades. The rate of improvement in this industry is just extraordinary. How do people protect themselves against obsolescence, I suppose, in these systems if they can only spend a certain amount now and they want to set up something that they can then add to down the track? Is there anything in particular they should look at or to protect themselves against that, or things that they just shouldn't buy or shouldn't worry about just yet in how that all works?
I think the first thing to say is I've never heard anyone say, oh, I wish I hadn't got solar then, I wish I'd waited. So, this is, as I said before, this is the same technology that's been around since the sort of 70s and 80s. It's just that it has improved. So if you had a system that you'd had for 25 years and you had all that savings, you might decide to upgrade it. But it doesn't mean that that was a waste of money because you've had all that savings. And actually, about 80% of the components can be recycled now. So there's an Australian organisation called Reclaim PV. So, if you had an old system that you were going to replace, they can organise that for you. And then there's the people who put systems on 10 years or so ago where they were about 3 or 4 times the cost they are now. So they had much smaller systems, but those systems have already paid for themselves in savings. So, but what we're seeing is instead of adding to an existing system, some people are opting to put a second system on. So particularly if you're on a rural property, then you would just have a separate system. But if you're grid connected, then you might have more than one phase going into your house. So you could have a different PV system for each phase.
What do you mean by that?
So it's, you don't see it very often in homes, but if people have quite kind of industrial air conditioning or swimming pool pumps and things like that, they might have more than one electrical phase going into their house. And when you put solar on, you have to allocate which phase it goes to. So you might say, well, the pool pump goes all day, so we'll put the solar, connect it to that. And then in 3 years' time, you might say, well, let's get another system and connect it to the power at the house. And I just thought of something before about the batteries in terms of the idea of the home of the future is with electric cars coming through, the new Nissan electric car, Leaf, you can actually use that battery in your home, the battery in the car. So I think that's another thing to watch out for is we may see that instead of people getting batteries for their home, they get cars that they can use the batteries.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is next level, isn't it?
Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting times. And it has to happen. The change has to happen.
Yeah. It's like, honey, can you hurry home? The house needs your car. Yeah, I just I think it's really exciting, and I also know how overwhelming it is because there does seem a lot of technology associated with it, and it does feel like it's changing at such a rapid rate. But I think your point about the fact that this is technology that's been around for a very long time, and really the changes are about making it more and more efficient, so that I suppose we can generate more our power needs with less panels, less bulky sort of systems in terms of just how accessible this can become, and of course the cost coming down over time as well. So in your work, what are you seeing sort of around the uptake of solar power, particularly in residential projects? Are you seeing that this is really, really gaining momentum?
Yeah. So the biggest change is that we're seeing people put much bigger systems on. So a 3 kilowatt system used to be considered quite a big system, and now most people are putting on 5 or even 6 kilowatts. Some distributors will have restrictions on the size system that you can put on because they want to be able to manage the voltage of power coming into the grid. But even in those instances, it's usually a 5 kilowatt system is the maximum. So that's quite a big system. So that's kind of the biggest changes. We're seeing bigger systems, but it's no longer the early adopters. On the bell curve, it's a bit more mainstream. And I do think that's largely because solar is visible. People see it on roofs and think, oh, there must be something in this.
Is there still a lot of conversation about rebates and what am I going to get back for this and payback periods and those types of things?
Yeah, well, especially because in the build up to an election. So there were government rebates a few years ago, and then that got replaced with STCs, which are small scale technology certificates. And the STC program was always designed to be phased out. So it's got about 12 years left, and they're dropping in price as they phase out. But essentially what it was it was a market for certificates that proved that you were generating clean energy. So, for example, a distributor might buy them. There was a marketplace. A distributor might buy them in order to offset some of their carbon emissions. But they went down in price as they're being phased out. They also went down in price because the huge uptake in solar that no one had predicted. So they were sitting at a market value of about $36, and suppliers, when they were doing quotes, it was a line item that looked like a rebate because it was sort of the easiest way to explain it, and it was a deduction off the total cost. And at one point they dropped down to $26 per SGC. So obviously the suppliers were going to lose money if they were paying you $35. It's stabilized now, but it is being phased out. So sometimes there's a bit of a hurry, rebates ending. It's not a lie, but it's not a real rush. We've got 12 years. They're only adding about $100 to $200 onto the system, the price of the full system. So that's one part of rebate. And then, as I said, in the build up to an election, there's a lot of discussion. So in Victoria, the Victorian government are actually offering additional rebates. And yeah, I think hopefully as climate change becomes a bit less of a party debate, governments will be a bit more keen to offer rebates and incentives.
Yeah, I think it's I think too, when the first sort of systems enabled you to feed back into the grid and you were getting the same rate on your bill as you were paying for your power, and then obviously that's changed over time as well. So I think for homeowners who are obviously wanting to take up the idea of solar, it's not necessarily a quick economic kind of win decision. It is very much that understanding of this is something that over time is going to be worthwhile, and we're doing it for other reasons as well as our hip pocket. This is about our belief that that the environment needs us to be behaving better in terms of how we use our energy, that this isn't just an empty bottomless bucket, that there is an opportunity for us to have an impact through the choices that we make, and our home is one of those choices, and how we power our home is one of those choices. So I see homeowners that I speak to, they have a myriad of reasons for why they're wanting to make the decision about solar, and so it's really just pulling all of those pieces together about how much is this going to cost me, what is it going to save me, what is that worth to me in terms of my personal values and my personal beliefs, and that it's this really multi-layered decision-making process. So I think it's really fascinating to see, and it's fantastic to see that the uptake is increasing, that we've got a much more high level of consciousness around the importance of this, and the accessibility that, and ability of our choices to actually make a difference in this overall. So it is one of those things that's definitely, I can see the impact is really increasing.
Yeah, and it's coming down in price, so it's making it easier for those people who weren't quite convinced.
Yeah,
I have a slide when I do presentations, and it's got an image of the Earth with an I heart and an Earth, and it's got a piggy bank. And I explain that that's because those are the two main reasons that people are keen on solar, and those two reasons are valid. And then later on in my presentation, I have the same slide, but it has the I heart the Earth, the piggy bank, and a stick it to the man. And I say these are the reasons people want to get batteries, and none of them are quite there yet.
Sprung completely. Yeah, it's really this has been a fantastic conversation in terms of understanding I suppose what part of that conversation needs to have the biggest kind of weighting. It's like you say, if this is just about getting frustrated with energy generally, and with the suppliers, and with frustrations around how they might be servicing you as a customer and just wanting to be rid of them, that's not necessarily going to support the growth of solar overall, because it's going to mean that energy bills are going to get higher for those people that can't necessarily afford solar. Like, I love that you brought that into the conversation in terms of just the socialist kind of aspect of this, and how we can really be thinking about this far more globally than our individual house with our individual solar system on it. So
yeah.